Hi there, so today we're going to be going through a dumbbell Maltese raise dynamic isometric. So with this exercise, the intent is to deviate away from the typical movement pattern we do with this exercise and challenge a lot of areas outside of that area, potentially addressing a lot of weak areas, vulnerable areas, and helping strength train those areas. So the Maltese raise is lying on your back, and then with a pair of dumbbells, I'm going from here to here. Okay, the focus is keeping the elbows locked out, traveling in a very linear fashion, palms facing the ceiling. Now with the dynamic isometric, as I mentioned, I'm going to want to deviate away from that movement pattern. So things you'll be able to play with is shoulder abduction, taking the arm out to the sides. You'll also be able to play with shoulder rotation, okay, and then in combination. So to give you an example, this could be one slow set, or it could be a set of maybe 3 reps. I would start here, and then I will lower the dumbbells to a point where I start to feel a bit of the load of the weight. So say about here. And now as I'm holding position here, I'm just kind of hovering with back and forth shoulder abduction at the moment. What I can also apply is rotation. So I can do the same movement, but this time with the palms facing the ground. And now I can start to think about actually applying in combination. I can be rotating from the shoulder as I start to move back and forth. And as you can see, this is almost like a slow eccentric. I'm just going through the movement very slow, applying the rotation, adduction. The reason for moving slow as well is to also pay attention to areas that might be weak. I might notice taking the arm out to a certain point with a certain rotation and combination might be a lot weaker than going the other way. Now, I don't want to move too quickly from where I feel weak to an area where I feel strong. I want to try and keep it all under control and spend time working within those weak areas, challenging those weak areas. So that would be an example of a dynamic isometric. As I mentioned, it could be one slow rep like I was running through. That would have taken me through to almost like a minute, maybe a minute and a half. Or it could be 3 reps to 5 reps, going a little faster through the movement. Now with this particular exercise, increments can play quite an interesting role. So certain things you could do, for example, is use a fat grip to place on a dumbbell. And then as you go through the movement, for example, it'll feel very different on how it's stimulating various areas around the shoulder joint. Another increment I like to use is a Indian club where we have most of the weight on one end. So for example, when I do this exercise with an Indian club, as I'm lowering the weight down, say I start to internally rotate, I will feel a lot of the weight try to pull my shoulder into more internal rotation. So then I'm having to work quite hard to resist that. And the same would happen here. Once I start to externally rotate, I'm going to feel the weight at the end pull me into more external rotation. Therefore, I'm having to work quite hard to control that weight. So certain things like these type of increments can really change how much more challenging the exercise becomes.